Presenter is Miss Thamara Kothalawala. She is a lecturer in English at the Department of Languages, Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities at the General Sir John Kothalawala Defence University. Miss Thamara, yes, the floor is yours. So, I have to tell the thing also.
Good afternoon. My presentation is on using musical intelligence-based techniques to coach young ESL learners in acquiring grammar. These are the contents of my presentation. Despite the facilities provided by the Sri Lankan government, the students in most of the rural schools are not motivated to learn English under various circumstances, such as poverty, lack of facilities and teachers, lack of exposure to English language, lack of parental support, lack of learning goals, and child labor. To motivate the students, there should be an effective strategy, and the teachers have to make lessons more attractive and appealing to different intelligences of students. In that regard, multiple intelligence is a theory which is introduced by Howard Gardner, a psychologist, in his book Frames of Mind in 1983. He claims that humans do not possess a single intelligence but a range of intelligences. He listed 7 intelligences such as musical rhythmic, verbal linguistic, visual spatial, bodily kinesthetic, logical mathematical, and interpersonal intelligences. According to Gardner, most of the students have all of these intelligences, but in each person, one or more of them are pronounced. Multiple intelligence-based techniques are becoming a popular approach in language teaching. It identifies learners as different individuals in designing lessons. The musical intelligence is central to human experience. It is the earliest of the intelligence to emerge. Even children as young 2 months old can sing and match rhythmic structures. And it's closely linked to our other intelligences. We often feel music with our bodies and move accordingly. We often feel music with our emotions and cry or laugh accordingly. The significance of this study includes the fact that the traditional teacher-centered approach only provides much attention on developing linguistic intelligence of the students, and it is not adequate to produce a motivated language learner in the selected school. Sri Lankan curricular designers should make attempts to include grammar lessons based on musical intelligence. Now you can see the hypothesis of this study. The hypothesis of this research is musical intelligence-based techniques are effective tools that should be used to teach past passive forms to rural students who are unmotivated in learning English. Objectives of this study include measuring the students' competency in using past passive forms of English, exploring the effectiveness of the activities based on musical intelligence to teach past passive forms of English. The methodology of this study includes both quantitative and qualitative data approach. The quantitative approach includes an experiment that consists of 4 tools: multiple intelligence test, pretest, intervention, and post-test. Further, informal interviews with the English teacher and students and classroom observations were included in the qualitative approach. The sample included 30 students in grade 7 in a very rural school in Hambantota. All of them were at pre-intermediate level. A pretest was used to measure the student's existing proficiency in simple past passive forms. It was designed as a writing test that includes 6 active sentences. The student had to change the sentences from active voice to passive voice. The duration of the test was 30 minutes. The sub-skill of using passive forms measured in this test were the ability to use the correct past participle form, the ability to find the subject and object of a sentence, and identifying the appropriate auxiliary forms. Multiple intelligence test was conducted to measure the intelligence levels of the students. Here I used a questionnaire which was designed by Chislett and Chapman in 2005. The students' responses were collected using a questionnaire, and the intelligence profiles for each student were created. The number of students who possess each category of intelligence were identified. The preferred methods of learning were identified. Now, this is the lesson I used. In the presentation stage, the past tense passive forms were introduced. In the practice stage, they had to recite the poem with actions to internalize the forms and meanings. In the production stage, they did two activities. In the first activity, they had to add one verse to the poem using past passive forms. In the second activity, they had to write a similar poem using, it means they had to write a similar poem about a happy teddy bear. Now, this is the poem I used in this study. This poem can be used to show how the doer becomes less important and the action becomes more important in passive voice. This song was drilled with actions by the students, and they all sang this song in chorus. A post-test was conducted to measure the achievement of the selected students in their ability to use past passive forms. It includes 5 sentences written in active voice. The students had to change them into simple past passive forms. Now I would like to present the results of the study. This graph depicts the result of multiple intelligence test. It shows the intelligence profiles of 6 students. As you can see, the majority of students had a high level of 1 or 2 intelligences, but one type of intelligence always surpassed the rest. The students had individual differences in intelligences, and they have high musical intelligence. All the 30 students of the sample scored 0 marks in the pretest. Thus, they can be considered as beginners of learning passive forms. Students were unable to find the subject and object of the given sentence. Further, they were unable to use appropriate past participle forms. They were not aware of the appropriate forms and their use. Besides, they were unaware of the subject and word combination of passive forms. The song was drilled for 2 weeks at the beginning of each English period. After a week, a post-test was conducted. Now you can see the results of the post-test. 21 students out of 30 scored about 3 marks out of 5. The students produced accurate passive sentences as they had internalized the structure and the form in the drill. Now these are some passive sentences created by them. In analyzing the results scored at the post-test, majority of them had the proficiency in simple past passive forms. The lessons which were used to develop their motivation and proficiency in passive forms are effective. Students easily learn passive forms when they are presented in songs that can be practiced in the class as a drill. It is highly productive and effective in letting the students engage in the activity with fun. They also practice the target language forms in a meaningful context. It is also helped to produce a creative teacher who is equipped with attractive activities in his or her teaching style. The informal interviews conducted with the selected students reveal that they enjoy by singing and acting out the given song, and they found learning passive form is really enjoyable task. While singing, they acted according to the meaning of the poem. Therefore, the activity was effective in making a stress-free environment in the classroom. The theme of the song was on toys, and they felt free to come out with their own experience about the poem. Many students in rural schools are not competent in English. Therefore, multiple intelligence theory opens the doors to a variety of innovative teaching strategies which can easily be applied in English language classroom. The active engagement of learners makes them responsible of their own learning. The teacher only creates an effective environment with the use of musical intelligence. Therefore, the results of this study can be used by English language practitioners of Sri Lanka to teach English through musical intelligence-based activities. Also, the Sri Lankan curriculum designers should make attempts to include grammar lessons based on musical intelligence. The future researchers can use the result to do in-depth studies of musical intelligence. Thank you very much.